There's something special about the role of Tosca to me. The combination of wonderfully soaring lines and something you can really dramatically sink your teeth into. This must be one of the most gratifying roles to sing, isn't it?
For me, it is. I like it very, very much. I've been doing Tosca since, I think, 1972, when I turned soprano,
Yes.
and so-called.
Was this one of the first things you did?
Yeah,
when you
after
turned soprano?
Salome, it was, yeah. And I enjoy it very, very much. I think Tosca and Gioconda and Norma, I think, are my favorite ones, my favorite operas. I really do think so.
Are you having more fun as a soprano than a mezzo?
I don't know if it's any more fun. I think it's a bit more demanding in that, let's say if as a mezzo, if you don't feel so well that particular night, and you have a bit of a cold, if you're clever, a little bit clever, you can get away with it. You can know how to skirt it. But in the soprano roles, where everything is so exposed, the high notes are so exposed, you really cannot skirt them so easily. They're so exposed, and everybody's waiting for them. So you've got to keep yourself as fit as you possibly can be, and even more so than you possibly can be. Yeah, I enjoy very much singing soprano repertoire, but I tell you, it's not simple. It's not easy. It's not easy.
You have given up the mezzo repertoire completely except for Eboli.
Except Eboli. And I never, ever found Eboli to be a mezzo, what one calls a mezzo. No, for me, she's always been a soprano. The tessitura is just as high. The demands, the dramatic demands are far greater than Elizabeth's are. And the agility she needs in the first act certainly is not what you would call a typical mezzo agility. For that reason alone, I just have never found it to be a mezzo. Now, then later on, I read, doing some research work on Verdi, I found that he had written the opera for two different persons. When he started the opera, Don Carlos, with the Eboli he had was a contralto. And that's why, and then later on, in midstream, he changed singers. And that's why the Odo Fatale is in a completely different manner of writing than the first two acts. And the Canzone del Velo was even moved up a third from his original writing. So I was happy to have read that, because I felt that my thoughts had at least been grounded.
Absolutely. I read in Opera News the interview that you did with Stephen Rubin about a year ago or so, and you said that as of about a year and a half ago, you felt that the transformation to soprano was complete. What was the road that you traveled, outside of just singing higher notes, in making that change?
Well, I, first of all, have been asked by three major conductors. Sir Georg Scholti, von Karajan, and Maestro Böhm, to sing higher parts. So I figured, I can't be the only one right here among these giants. There must be some reason for them to want to hear me in these higher roles. Sir Georg wanted me as Salome for Covent Garden. All right, I did those 2 seasons. That was really the turning point. But before that, Maestro Karajan wanted me to sing Donna Anna in Don Giovanni. I thought he must have been a bit mad. Way back in those days, I hadn't even thought about being a soprano. That was in the time that I was still doing Carmen. As a matter of fact, it was in Salzburg at the Salzburg Festival. I was going Carmen there, and he asked me, would I do Donna Anna? And also, when I had auditioned with Carmen for the Bayreuth Festival, Wolfgang Sawallisch asked me then to sing Venus in Bayreuth. Now, that particular version of Venus is not the Paris version, which has that low middle section. It was the Dresden version, which was a soprano one. So I began to think, well, there must be some reason why they're asking for this. Yeah. And so then I started going through my repertoire, seeing, not on the repertoire, but also checking the voice. What is it about my voice that makes him want to hear soprano stuff? And so this followed me through for 10 years of mezzo, you see. So then I decided, well, let me try it. And because I had 2 different engagements with Salome, and I thought, if I can get through Salome, then I should be able to make that change. And I got such fantastic reviews, so I thought, well, this is the time for me to change. Unfortunately, I didn't have a time to just stop singing the mezzo repertoire, because one has to still continue to acknowledge the contracts you already have.
Sure.
So I had to go through those performances of the mezzo repertoire in those following 3 years. but at the same time concentrating on that high voice. Then after around about 74 or 5, I think it was 75, I went to a teacher and we started working on the soprano road to singing. I mean, it's really an avenue. It's not just saying I'm going to sing the soprano repertoire now and I have those lovely high notes. No, that's not it. It's the avenue, the way in which you get there, that enables you to sustain it. Because that's what's important. Just singing high notes is not important. How you are able to sustain that tessitura is what's important.
Well, welcome, soprano Grace Bumbry. We're delighted to have you here again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.